All right, here we go again.
Yes, indeed. Got a few in the chat already.
That's what we like. Just wait for a couple more and then kick off.
We are just on YouTube tonight. Is that right?
Live from YouTube.
2 minutes late. We're already copping it. Who's Rehihi Jr.? Whoever they are, they're very keen.
Very keen. All right. There's some people in the chat now. We can probably get started. Welcome back to the awards, everybody. Tonight, we're going to take on our last stream before the winner announcements next Wednesday, the 29th.
And the entries close this Sunday, 26th of May at 4 p.m. Sydney time. And that's when the judges will start their job on Sunday night. So today, we're going to be covering the scoring criteria for your knives, the judging feedback process, as well as how you can check your own knife. So you set yourself up well for scoring before you submit those photos. And we have a very special guest. We have Master Bladesmith Jackson Rumble, who's also recently been elected the Vice President of the Australian Knife Makers Guild as well. So he's got all the titles. He'll be joining us in a little while to help us go through the scoring and the judging bit.
Perfect. So we've got a lot to cover today, but before we go deep into it, we'll just do the quick introductions. I'm Riley. If you don't know me, I run the markets for Nordic Edge. I make things, print things, homestead, do photography, make beer, lots of things. And Kevin.
Yes, and for those who aren't aware, I'm Kevin Room, and as the slide conveniently says, I'm the president of the Australian Knife Makers Guild and the head judge of the awards, but I'm also the Queensland state rep for people who want to join the guild from the southeast Queensland. Share that role with Tony Ewaker, who does the north Queensland, and I'm actually making a knife at the moment, which is kind of rare for me, so hopefully I'll have one finished in the next 3 to 6 months. But I think we're on to the recap.
All right. Okay, just to recap. There we go. The Knife Making Awards are an online knife making competition organised by Nordic Edge and judged by the Guild, held every year in May.
It is free to enter the awards, and only makers in Australia and New Zealand can enter. You can enter a single knife in one category, and you can enter through a Google form. All the details will be up on the screen. The entry link is only available to the members of the Australian Beginner Knife Making Group on Facebook. So if you aren't already in that group and you're going to submit, now is the time to join. Please check there on that page for the actual link to enter the competition. And as I said earlier, the entries close this Sunday, the 26th of May at 4 p.m. So if you haven't finished, this is your last weekend.
Now, we went over the categories in detail on another stream. So if you needed to look up the details, go to the summary slides on Facebook or the Nordic Edge blog. But just to quickly recap, there are 4 categories to choose from, 2 beginner and 2 open or advanced categories. They're meant to be a beginner-friendly competition, so look up those categories, criteria to make sure your knife fits in the category you want to enter.
And so a few makers have asked about this in terms of if they qualify as a beginner, and this is our definition of a beginner for the awards. So you can enter as a beginner if you are not a member of the guild, you have never exhibited at a knife show, you have never won a trophy in the awards, you do not self-identify as an advanced maker, meaning that if you can make canister, Damascus, and integral blades and the like, you are not a beginner. So you need to make that call yourself.
Absolutely. 2 things to mention quickly on the categories. Remember, Best in Show is the only category where your blade can be made from Damascus or Senmai. All other categories are required to be monosteel, as well as the biggest beginner outdoor knife must have a metal guard or bolsters if it's a full tang outdoor knife, mostly because anything goes in the Best in Show category will not have you disqualified if you... Let me try that again. because mostly anything goes in the best in show category.
It's late.
You will not be disqualified if not hitting the criteria. Just move to the best in show category. So if your knife doesn't qualify in your category because of choices you've made, it'll just be moved to best in show and it can compete against those guys. Though I haven't seen Ben Anderson this year, so there is some chance for someone else to win.
I don't know. He might be lurking away quietly, making that twisted multi-bar mosaic Damascus Giotto.
Yeah, maybe he does tend to pop out at the last minute.
We will see.
I think we're on photos.
So we are up to the photo. So when you're entering, you can only you can upload up to 4 photos, 1 overview and 3 detail shots. So the detail shots should be the grind and plunge line. That's the first shot. The second shot is showing the finish of the blade or the handle. The third is fitting, so the transition between materials, preferably blade to guard or guard to handle, just to show how everything's all fit up together. Fit and finish is a big part of the judging, as you will hear tonight. So they're the 3 main shots plus the overall shot of the knife.
Taking good knife photos is an art in itself, but using a tripod and good lighting does help a bit. And spending a bit of time on this one will probably pay off with the judges. Remember, they can only judge from what they see in the photos. And we did a session last week with Rod Hoare on knife photography, so you can go and catch up on the slides from that session as well in the same place. That was a lot to summarize to get us to where we are so far. And remember, all of this is covered in more detail in earlier streams, which have slides, which are on the Facebook group as well as on the Nordic Edge blog. And Bjorn's posted the link a couple of times in the chat. That probably brings us to an introduction.
Yeah, it does. That's all the summaries taken care of. So now we're coming to the main event of the live stream, which will be the judging and scoring of the awards. So part of the scoring is to give judging feedback to the makers, and to help us cover the judging and coaching aspect. Today we have Jackson Rumble joining us on the live stream. So Jackson is a world-renowned knife maker, only one of 3 ABS Mastersmiths in Australia, and we're really pleased to have him on tonight to run through his perspective on things. Welcome to the awards, Jackson.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Very glad to have you on.
You must be running out of space on your trophy shelf, man. Seems like everywhere you go, you win a trophy.
You know that you definitely can't read it there, but that trophy is one of the weirder ones I've got. It's called the Order of the Mystic Brotherhood, and I'm not even kidding. That's actually what it says, and I'm not really sure what it means yet either. So, maybe I'll find out this year at Blade Show. Maybe as a secret meeting or something like that.
You look like you're wearing a black hoodie there. Is that the ceremonial robe?
That's it. Yeah. Someone's going to snatch me away when I get to Blade Show. I'll end up, master room somewhere.
Jackson, you're one of very few ABS Mastersmiths in Australia, and as far as I know, the only Mastersmith born in Australia ever.
I guess so. I guess so.
Which, congratulations. Thank you for representing. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Here.
Well, I mean, somebody from here got to the top of the ziggurat, and that makes me happy. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you became a Mastersmith? Like what that process was like?
Sure. I really, I started how most of us do. I did a lot of YouTubing, and then I did a class at Thar Valley Forge. And that was back in 2013. And I think Mum actually got me that course for Christmas or my birthday or something like that. So we can really, thank my mum for this whole thing. And then I guess I started, the next year or so in 2014, 2015, seriously, with some real dodgy stuff, classic bench grinder, angle grinder, bad business starting. And then I believe I actually got my first real belt grinder, which I still have off Big Kev Slattery. So I think that grinder was Karim's before him. So that grinder went through a lot of hands before I got it. And Yeah, so I just did it in the garage for a couple of years after that, and then I think it was 2016 where I started working full time at Thaler, and teaching classes and making knives. So it's been a relatively short time frame, for me, but that's basically full time since 2016. That's kind of how I got to being a mastersmith, is just making a shit ton of knives, basically. Like that's all I can really say.
Yeah, I think most people would love that experience.
Yeah.
So you're about to head over to Blade fairly soon, which is very exciting. American knife shows. Is there a difference, having been to a couple of Blades now versus the shows in Australia? What's the biggest difference you find between the shows?
Just, the size for the most part. Even the smaller American show is just massive. Blade show in itself is, well, you really have to see it to believe it. Basically, it's. I don't think I've ever been in a room that big. It's a hangar, of tables. And I think someone told me once, my first year, that if you wanted to see all the tables, over the 3-day period, you had 30 seconds at each table during the 3 days of the opening hours. So it's just phenomenal. It's just massive. But there's a lot of weird stuff on these tables. Like some of it's barely knife related. There's some strange stuff. So it's not all. It's definitely not all custom makers. You get all kinds of these shows. So just think of the Sydney the Sydney show basically, but just massive.
I'd love to go to Blade one day.
Eight times as big.
Yeah, it's huge.
Now we're talking about your journey becoming a mastersmith. What is it that is driving you to make better and better knives, and the sort of the hollow integral guards and the things that you do in your particular style? What's your driver for those? What's your inspiration?
Well, most people would say insanity, and I tend to agree with that. Especially at the point where I'm at now with my current one. It's another dagger with cutouts in the guard and stuff like that. And I'm staring down the barrel of about a week to a week and a half of hand finishing. So, this is not the fun part by any stretch. But, I guess, what drives me is just, seeing what's possible, seeing some other makers and seeing just the incredible work they're coming up with, and wanting to be like them, wanting to make this work where, ideally someone looks at it and they go, wow, and they remember it. I was over in Turkey, and I went to a museum in Istanbul, and there was some, swords and weapons and stuff from like the 1400s or 1500s, and I really thought, wouldn't it be amazing if, in a couple hundred years' time, maybe some of my work is in a museum or something like that. And it really kind of spurred me on, I would say. Like, imagine if hundreds of years from now, someone's looking at my work and hopefully thinking, wow, it's pretty cool still, hopefully, not saying, look at this piece of shit that someone made.
Yeah, no, I think you've already earned your place there to some extent. Some of those daggers are just on another level. Now, a big part of these awards and why you're here tonight is getting feedback from the judges and having some constructive criticism beyond just a mate coming over and saying, oh, good knife, well done. What's your take on the coaching aspect for makers when they have knives that they ask you to take a look at? What are the sort of things that you look at and focus on when you're giving some feedback to makers?
Yeah, okay. First of all, I think I don't really like giving advice. I find it quite uncomfortable sometimes, actually, like to pick apart someone's work. I know how much time and effort people put into these things. So, you won't get any unsolicited advice from me. That's for sure. So, but when someone does come up and they do say, point out all the things you could work on, like you basically tear it to shreds, like, and, it happens all the time, like if I regularly hand my stuff to Sean McIntyre and say, tear me a new one, what am I not seeing? What am I missing here? Because I really think that's the only way you can get better is, sometimes you can't see it, especially when you're first learning, you're not sure what you're looking at or even like how to check symmetry or how to check straightness or something like that. Maybe you don't know how to look for it. So it's the only way, in my mind, to get better is to have constructive criticism. But
the first thing I thought of when you said that was, I think I showed Sean the second or third knife I ever made, and he was very kind. And he looked at it and he's like, "Great job, buddy. Now make 100 more of them, as close to exactly the same as you can.
Yeah,
and you'll be about where you need to be." Like, it's just like, and sometimes that is the advice, right? The advice is do more of this. Like, if you want to make a better knife, you need to make 100 more of them. Because like when you talk about it, particularly about at the start of your kind of section, you're talking about when you went to work at Thawa and you were both teaching and making the knives that they sell, you've probably made by volume many more knives than the average knife maker that weren't knives you were making for you. They were knives you were making for work. And so the kind of tool hours on the grinder that you have greatly exceed someone who's just making, knives to sell occasionally.
For sure, yeah. And I consider myself very lucky in that respect that, I got paid to essentially make mistakes, to grind steel and get good at fixing them. And the same, frame as well, teaching people, as you move along as a maker, you get better and better, and you ideally, hopefully, start making fewer and fewer mistakes. But in a class setting, all kinds of mistakes are getting thrown at you left, right, and center, and you're like, boy, how do I fix this, or how do we go about that? So it's not just the teaching. It's cliche, but teaching teaches you as an instructor a lot more than what people think. So you see different stuff every day, really.
Absolutely.
That was particularly eye-opening talking about the Thawa staff down.
Kev?
We lost him.
All right. I imagine he'll be back. I was just going to say on that, I did notice when
have put a lot of
there we go. On the board. You dropped out for a tick there.
Oh, did I? Where'd you get up to?
The Thawa. That's where you cut out.
Yeah. Okay. No, I was just saying the hours on the tools is really noticeable because the staff down there at Knife Camp, even though they may not be sort of makers in their spare time, not all of them anyway. The the work that they do is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Like, essentially the job of the teachers is to drag 5 students kicking and screaming through making 2 knives each in 2 days, which is, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and some of them are harder than others for sure. But time, just time with the grinder and just grinding steel. Sometimes with my work these days, like this dagger, for instance, I'm about a month in terms of work. A month of full-time work, and I haven't even ground it yet. So, like you'd want to be pretty confident that you can grind it after, a month of work, and that's tomorrow's job. So, I'm feeling pretty upbeat about it now, but
you can
maybe not.
You can keep that, mate. That's for you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't recommend it. It's awful. Yeah. Like it's stressful stuff, but
I think
the payoff is worth it though.
Yeah.
We might rumble onto the scoring matrix because we could see.
I see what you did there.
So let's get into that actual scoring matrix. The awards is online only, and the judges have to base the score on the photos that you've submitted, as we covered earlier. And Kev's going to talk about how the scoring system works because we did base it on the guild scoring system.
Yes, indeed. So we've got basically simplified the scoring down to 6 criteria that we think covers most, if not all, aspects of the knife. And this is simplified down from the Guild's assessment criteria. So the only difference across the categories here is that the best knife from kit is not judged on the grind criteria, simply because you're using a ready-made blade that's already been ground and you didn't do that. So we're not going to judge that. So let's dive into the actual criteria, as this is the stuff that your photos is going to need to show in order for you to score well. So pay attention. The grinds properly executed. This means the blade, the plunge lines, the transitions between the ricasso, spine, and bevels. So that's something to get right and to take good photos of. Material selection. It has to be fit for purpose. Overall impression of the materials used and how these fit together. They should match. They should work well together and not be too disjointed. So something like a carbon steel blade on a diving knife, for instance, is not really a good fit for purpose choice for steel because it's obviously going to rust. Other things like if you're making a small little bird and trout knife for the outdoor knife, and you're using like 4 mil thick steel, that's not fit for purpose. So things like that to consider. Consistency of finish. So the blade and the handle both need to show the consistency of finish on both of those. Is the blade hand sanded well? Are the lines all parallel? Are there any visible scratches? Is the handle, guard, and blade finished to the same level? Have you burned any sections of your micarta with a dull belt, or are there scratches that are still in the pins that you've polished around? Those sort of things are what we're going to look at. And design. Here we're looking at the dimensions, the flow of the knife, ergonomics, and also the fit for purpose, as in is the blade length or thickness suitable for the use? So kind of what I was talking about before with the really thick steel for a kind of thin skinning type knife. Does it look like a knife that you want to pick up and use? Or does it have, 10 finger grooves and sharp angles and things like that? That's not going to score so well. So does it look comfy? Do you look at it and go, yeah, I want to pick that up and use it? So that's where the design elements come into it. Technical complexity. This one is to be able to award extra points where they are deserved. So a tricky technique or something that is especially well done will get rewarded here. At the Melbourne show, for instance, the category Best Art Knife has a requirement that it should display a high level of execution and technical difficulty. So this is a similar thing here. So you can sort of put things in the category like an integral, a particularly nice hamon, really beautifully executed bolsters, something like that. There's lots of different, it's how long's a piece of string, but something that is technically complex. And last is the overall impression. So this is one last look at the knife as a whole. And what's the impression overall when zooming back out? Think of it like one of the pictures in a big Instagram feed. Does it stand out to you in a sea of other photos? That's the overall assessment. Does it look good? Do you want to look at it? So over to you, Riley, on how the judges are going to work.
All right. So thank you for covering what the judges will be scoring their knives on. These criteria are a simplified version of the actual Guild assessment criteria for new members. So a pro tip would be to download the full list of criteria to score your own knife against. Taking the time to think about how each of the criteria applies to your knife is a great way to learn how you're doing. To me, it seems a lot easier to do this if you could pick the knife up. For instance, it might be hard to see how heavy the knife is, while if you could pick it up, it would be easy to know straight away. So, Jackson, as a judge at previous year's awards, how is scoring the knives based only on the photos? And is there any advice you would give people where you could see it was a really nice knife, but they'd been let down by not saying enough in the photos, so to speak?
For sure, yeah. I mean, like, it's judging's hard enough in general, but judging from photos is really quite difficult. I guess one thing I would say is try not to annoy the judges, right? For starters. So let's say I want to be able to see everything we've just talked about. You can't, if that's hidden in some way, whether it's intentional or unintentional, the judges are automatically pissed off. right? We want to be able to easily go through these knives, be like, yes, 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 these things have all been done, even if they haven't been done to the, a perfect standard or whatever. Me personally, I would rather see everything, of what we're trying to look at. Don't make the judge's job difficult in this process. So, like an example, like let's say we're looking at a guard transition or something like that. I would rather see a photo clearly saying, showing exactly what's there, than it's, maybe it's tipped on a slight angle where we can't see it. To me, it's just like makes it harder to judge, and a knife that's harder to judge is going to be harder to score, basically. So, yeah, I want to see everything.
Wonderful. So if we get into the actual scoring of the criteria, each of those 6 criteria, each 6 criteria is scored from 1 to 8. I'm just making sure it's the same as last year. Challenge here is that not every point might be visible on every knife, or not visible enough to score with certainty. It could even be a criteria that is not relevant for a certain kind of knife. So we really want them to come through well in the photos. The scoring here starts out with a 4. 4 is the default score, meaning it's okay, or not visible enough to score. The idea is not to penalize anyone for something not visible in the photo, but rather score up and down based on the quality of the work. So a score of 1 to 3 means more work is required. A score of 4 is okay. And a 5 to 8 means the judges are very happy about whatever they saw in that criteria. Each category will have between 2 and 5 judges, and the scores are averaged out across the judges.
And now we're going to talk a little bit about the judging comments. So in addition to the average score, each maker receives judging comments back from the judges. So this is a really key part of the awards, especially for the makers. So getting constructive feedback from the experienced guild judges that are going to be doing the judging on how well your knife is made, and more importantly, how you can improve is really what this is all about. Let's run through the beginner knife making page, and that's, we want to help people improve and progress in their knife making. So this is, not just your mate patting you on the back and saying good job, but makers who have all made a few knives, as we've heard. Jackson's made many, probably good 1,000 or so by now, I reckon. But makers who really want to help you find areas to improve your knife making. Meaning the feedback is about what to work on next, and it's going to be specific to you based on your photo. So the better the photos, the more relevant feedback you're going to get. Now, one thing I want to say here as a judge is to take these comments in the spirit that they are meant. So, someone might be typing on their mobile, trying to give some helpful advice, and did not volunteer their Sunday night to be anything but helpful. So please take these comments as they were made to help you grow as a maker. And that is to say, they're not, you're putting yourself into this competition to get this feedback. And look, the judges aren't going to be malicious, but we are going to spot things and give you that feedback. So please take them in the right spirit. We are trying to help, and we want you to improve.
So I guess, on the judge's notes, I guess while we've got you, Jackson, I'll just ask you, what would you be looking for in a note if you gave your knife to someone whose opinion you respected, and they found something about it that they wanted to talk to you about? What kinds of things would you be looking for in a note at your level?
It's essentially anything and everything. I want as many things wrong as you can find in that knife, for the most part. Not for the most part. That's plain and simple. I want to know everything wrong, right? And I guess as a judge, if I can offer a simple explanation of maybe a different way of approaching that, approaching that problem area, I would offer that as well. And I would like to be offered that, maybe try it this way, or how did you approach that specific part of the knife? Here's where it went wrong. Try this technique instead. Sometimes these comments hurt. I get it. It's brutal. You spend all this time on these knives, and it hurts when you start, people start pointing out the flaws, because unfortunately that's all you'll see next time you look at it. Once you do see a mistake, that's all you can look at. But all I can say is it's really the fastest and best way to get better is to take them on board and not get too defensive about it. But I do understand that it doesn't feel good. That's but that's part of the deal if you want to get better, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I guess following on from that to you, Kev, obviously when you get feedback in the awards, that's an opportunity to get feedback from these guild members who volunteered their time to judge on this one occasion in May. But the guild is actually it's in their mandate to help people develop their knife making. So can you talk about that a bit, about the kind of the resources that the guild has to help people to grow as makers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I often say when people are asking about joining the guild and what's the benefit and things, and the number one thing I go to is probably the biggest benefit is the feedback that you will get by submitting your 3 knives for your probationary assessment. The probationary assessment is aimed at people who are beginners who are serious about the craft. It is not something where you already have to be at the master smith level. We are there to help people who really want to learn the craft. So just not just anyone who has a passing fancy in it. That's why the criteria is to make 3 knives. But if you've taken the time to make 3 knives, getting them in front of one of the state reps in person, because it's totally different. The feedback you're going to get on these photos will be helpful, but it doesn't compare at all to having those knives in the hands of an experienced state rep with the guild or another maker who can take you through all of the criteria. Remember, this is just a cut down criteria, all of the criteria, and can really give you detailed feedback on every aspect of the knife, all the things that you need to work on. And as Jackson was saying, a lot of different prompts to help you in terms of, you could try it this way, or, I know that problem, this is what you're facing, this is how you can fix it, etc. And that is huge, particularly at that probationary level. And so it shouldn't be something to be looked at. If you've already decided you're serious, you've got the gear, you're making knives, you're giving them to family and friends and stuff, and you really think, this is going to be for you, that's where the guild comes in. And yeah, this is a taste. This competition's a taste of it. But yeah, the probationary assessment is a phenomenal learning experience, I would say.
100%. As an example of that, I showed a knife that I had made to Kev Slater, who used to be our state rep. And he looked at it, and he looked at one side, and he looked at the other side, and he said, "You've got to pick your elbow up." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, this is caused by one arm being too low. When you're going left, bring your elbow up." And I'm like, from looking, and he's like, "Yeah, I've made thousands of these. It's fun." And that's just like, you put it in his hand, and or it'll be like, "Oh, the handle's slightly too wide, like 3 mil too wide." And you take 3 mil off it when you get home, and you're like, "That is a much better knife." It's just incredible advice to get from someone who can just eye it off. So I guess, unless you had anything to add, Kev, I just want to get into that thing about anonymity, which I just like to make sure we cover off every year.
Absolutely.
So the feedback for your category for every knife will be shared to you. So you'll be able to see the feedback that everyone in your category was given. It's not anonymous. It's not one-on-one feedback. So you'll see the scoring and the judges' comments for your entire category. And you can look at kind of where the winners were and where you were, and look at the points and understand how all of that interacts. And that's an important part of the responses from the awards. So if that's a problem for you, at least now you know. We've got some time for some questions. Now, I did ask a minute ago in the chat, can a knife made for this competition be used in your Proby set for membership to the guild? I don't see why not, Kev.
Just looking at that one. No. Yeah, absolutely. So the Proby requirements is 3 knives. Proby is any 3 knives. There are some certain requirements that have to be met for your full membership assessment, but for your Proby assessment, yeah, you can use any 3 knives, provided they are capable of getting a 50% score on the categories. And so obviously it's on you to have a read of that and do a little bit of self-assessment. But yes, in short. Going back to our discussion at the start of this meeting, yes.
The other question I see here is probably for you, Jackson, which is saying, is there a video of you forging an integral guard dagger somewhere? I'd love to see how that happens.
Me too.
No. I said the short answer is no. Not because I'm hiding anything, but because it just takes all day. It takes a really long time to forge those daggers. So, look, maybe in the future, if we can, get someone to film it, or maybe it should have to be a pretty long, boring event if someone wants to watch the whole thing. But unfortunately, no. Basically, yeah.
That's a good question there about if you know there's an issue with your knife, should you call it out when submitting, or just leave it for the judges to pick up? My take on that would be, if it's something you can fix before submitting, I would fix it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, what would your take be, Jackson?
No, I wouldn't personally. I appreciate the honesty there, but I don't think you need to, spell out all the mistakes on your knife. I think you're spot on there. If you can fix it, then you should definitely fix it. But if you don't have time to do that, or it's not possible, I don't think you really need to submit a list of what's wrong with it. I think that's okay.
And I would say the photo medium does kind of work both ways a little bit. I mean, we all know about, there shouldn't be heavily edited photos, but you can do some subtle angles and things to highlight the good spots, shall I say.
Everybody's got a good side.
Yeah.
What about that one? What are each of your favorite steels? It doesn't even ask and why. What are each of your favorite steels?
Short answer. Okay. RWL 34.
Interesting. Mine's still 52-100.
Yeah, fair enough.
1084, the thicker the better.
Nice. Are there any other questions? Probably still have a bit of a delay in this, like we did last week.
Yeah, the broadcast. Why Jackson? Oh, why is RWL 34? I assume not just why broadly.
Why? We don't have time.
Why is he here? Why?
Why? It's a bit of, people are often shocked by that because almost all of my knives are carbon steel. But maybe a controversial opinion, but I just think stainless is better all around. People talk about the patina of knives and carbon steel, and I just for mono steel, I really can't get on board with that. I'm the only reason I'm doing carbon steel for the most part is because it'd be so much harder and 10 times more expensive to attempt it in stainless, basically. But if I could, and if
it's on your list, isn't it?
Yeah, if I was good enough to do it every time, then I would absolutely do it in stainless, full stainless. And I think RWL 34 is just for anyone who's used it, it's a beautiful, clean steel, razor sharp, finishes nicely. I think it's just an all around fantastic steel.
Yeah. Thank you for letting us know.
My experience with stainless is fairly limited, and of the stainless I've used, I still 52-100 just from an edge wise works. But the advantage of the lack of patina and the cleanliness in finishing, oh my god, that is a real bonus.
I can hear the Oscars music in my headphones. We're gonna have to move on to the next stage. So we will come back to those questions at the end. So we're going to have a quick chat about prizes and sponsors. Jackson, feel free to stay on or drop at your leisure. The awards are mostly for fun. to get some feedback. But prizes and trophies are great. So we have trophies for all 12 winners and prizes across the 4 categories. You can see the trophy in the photo here. It's cool to get a trophy for the shed or the pool room. Big fans of the castle. To show for taking part, and we're going to share some of those prizes tonight as well. We want to thank our partners who helped us out with prizes, for the winners and the guild for taking their time to help us with the scoring and providing feedback at their own time. It's more for fun. If you get a prize as well, great. It's so awesome to see the Knife End community coming together and offering up some prizes to the winners. And so I think we'll quickly rip through those prizes now.
We will. We'll go through them. So a lot of these to get through, so we'll speed it up. So the prize for the first category of Best Knife from a Kit. The first prize is sponsored by Smoko Designs. Smoko is the brand by Paul Emmanuel Aristan, who is a very well-known maker and artist living up here in Queensland. The prize is a custom-made folding knife kit of his own design with blade and parts for making the handle, as well as a detailed instruction manual for the project. So a really cool kit knife is the prize.
So in that same category, the second prize in Best Knife from Kit is going to be a custom leather sheath for your knife, sponsored by Christiane, who's the artist behind Humdell and Freya Traditional Leather Crafting. You can check out her work on Etsy if you want something custom made up in veg tan leather. Best Knife from Kit category is where the makers use that ready-made kit knife and make your own handle. And so the opportunity to have a sheath made for that knife kind of completes that whole package for you as the maker. This category is judged by the admin team from the beginner Facebook group, which includes myself and Bjorn and Jamie and a few other people. Not by the guild, but don't worry, the people judging it are very keen and have done many a kit knife in their time.
Now, the last prize in the Best Knife from a Kit category is a $100 gift card from 84 Engineering. 84 Engineering is a company most people in the Aussie knife making community are very familiar with, making quality grinders and other gear for knife makers. Now, this prize can be used on their website, 84engineering.com.au, towards grinders, accessories. They stock belts now and other things. So, yeah, some great prizes.
Fantastic. And a great family-owned Australian company. Happy to support them and be supported by them. So the first prize in Best Outdoor Knife is a pro photo shoot from Rod Hall Knife Images. Rob will take photos of your knife and edit these professionally. It's cool to have some nice photos of your work. And sort of, I like to think of it as a captured moment in time in your making. If you get a really nice photo of where you were making in the May of 2024, and you come back to it in the May of 2025 with the stuff you're making then, that's a really nice opportunity for you. In addition to the photo, you'll also get a copy of the 2023 Australian and New Zealand Knife Makers book, which I understand it has a big 2-page spread on Jackson in there. So, you can read up about that as well.
It does. It's a fantastic book. Rod did a fantastic job of that. Plenty of other makers in there too.
And obviously Rob was on last week to talk about photos, so we're happy to have him on board.
The second prize in the Best Beginner Outdoor category is a custom-made Maker's Mark or steel stamp. So Troy from On The Mark Engraving can help with graphic design of your Maker's Mark if you don't have one, as well as make you a custom stamp for hot stamping if you're doing forge work. He doesn't have a website, but you can look him up on Facebook if you are after a stamp. On The Mark Engraving also makes brass blacksmithing rulers. So if, you already have a Maker's Mark, you might decide to get a customized brass folding ruler with your name on it instead if you are to win that prize.
And I have one of those, and I have flogged the bejesus out of it. It's still doing great. So that's the best endorsement I can give. So the third and final prize in Best Beginner Outdoor Knife category is another $100 gift card from 84 Engineering in Cooma. I would like to think more about makers in Australia using 84 Engineering grinders than any other. I think they were saying at last count they've made more than 2,000 84 Engineering grinders since they started. So they're a household name in Australia, you would say. And we wanted to thank Ewan and the team for sponsoring the awards again with some great prizes.
Sure, I use them. So on to the first open and advanced category. So that is the best chef knife. In this category, any maker in Australia and New Zealand is welcome to take part, and we look forward to seeing what's coming this year for that. Now, this is a mono steel category, so no Damascus or Sanmai. We want this to be judged on the lines and the execution without the added complexity of judging the steel itself. In the best chef knife category, the first prize is a $200 prize sponsored by Tharwa Valley Forge. So Tharwa Valley is the biggest knife making school in Australia by far, possibly even the world by now. They're massive, and they're sponsoring the 200 to use against a voucher for a hands-on workshop at Tharwa Valley Forge just outside Canberra. And there are tons of courses that they offer which can help you in your journey.
Absolutely. And as we know, Jackson spent a bunch of time there, and look how he turned out.
Thoroughly recommend them. They're doing fantastic work down there.
The second prize in best chef knife category is a very cool prize from Nathan at Northern Iron Forge. They're sponsoring a custom-made hammer where the winner can choose the style and weight of the hammer from the many different kinds of hammers Nathan makes, up to 4 pounds. He's making a name for himself for making quality hammers used by many knife makers and blacksmiths. And this is a very popular prize every year. We carry those hammers at Nordic Edge, and they've got a wonderful weight to them and a really distinct style. Like when I see one in a rack, I know that Nathan made it. So that's a wonderful prize also.
It is indeed. The third prize in the best chef's knife category is sponsored by 3M and Oztech Supplies. So Sunil and the team at Oztech supply Nordic Edge with quality abrasives for knife makers, and I have this year decided to sponsor the awards with a prize, and the prize is $100 in abrasive belts. So I'm sure we would all be very grateful for that, given the amount of belts we all go through.
Absolutely. Now we come on to the most anticipated prize of this award every year. In the best in show category, the first prize is Nordic Edge will pay for your table at any knife show in Australia. Whether that's the KEA show or the Guild show or whatever your local show is, we will sponsor the table at that show within 12 months of the awards ending. So between this Sydney show and next year's Queensland show, we'll sponsor your table.
Very good prize there. The second prize for this best in show category is sponsored by Jez at Oblivion Blades, and it is a QMI billet of Sanmai steel. This is made with a core of 52-100 steel, good old 52-100, with cladding of mild steel and nickel in between for contrast. So you can see a photo of the completed knife in this steel on the slide there. It comes out very nice. Jez makes some great billets. He's very well known in the Aussie community for both his knives and also the billets that he makes. And this is a special one, so great prize for second.
Absolutely. And our third and final prize for Best in Show is the original and the best, the Big Mert File Guide, named after our friend Mert Tanzil, obviously. It's a file guide we developed with him for grinding integral guards to get a nice big indexing surface. It's the original Big Boy File Guide, as we call it. And we now have the V2 version with a bit of adjustment in the carbides, so you can step them slightly away from the workpiece if you need to, or closer. And that's the third prize for Best in Show at this year's awards. What do we think, guys? Is there a particular award in there, prize in there you particularly got your eye on personally? Is there anything in there you're like, oh, if only I were entering a knife?
I mean, a table at the show sounds pretty nice. Like that. That sounds pretty sweet.
Table at the show. I don't know. Having seen your file guide draw, Jackson, I reckon you could use another Big Mert. You don't have enough in there.
You can't have enough of them. Yeah, it's funny. I've got that knife we did when you were here. The file guide is actually still on that because I can't take it off.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah, because
it's
set in the spot that I really, I can't lose that. So yeah, another file guide would be just fine, actually.
If you want to make a note, Bjorn, maybe we could sell Jackson file guides in a pack of 5.
That'd be good. Yeah. Disposable file guides. Yeah, let's get it.
Like a retail box.
I think that completes the prize summary. So now we're going to get on to the giveaway quiz, which is, I'm sure, what some of you are here for. Now, keep in mind, there is a little bit of lag between us talking and you hearing it and you answering the question. So bear with us if we don't pick the name, but we straight away, we're going to pick the first name that we see, as we've been doing each week. So yeah, first one we see on the chat will be the winner. And we'll get on to the first question for the prize. Over to you,
I will super briefly clarify. Bjorn's added, we'll also pay for a table at the Canberra show if you'd like to go to the Canberra show. So we don't want to leave that one out. That completes the circus.
Because the KAA shows, the Guild show, and then the Canberra show. Three different.
Our first prize tonight is a handmade bench strop with polishing compound made by TB Woodworking in Victoria. The TB here is Tobias Binkett, the handsomer of the two Binketts. He is often seen adjacent to Dom at shows. Stropping your knife is a great way to make it sharper after using a sharpening stone or without needing to use a sharpening stone. And it doesn't remove a lot of material or generally introduce scratches into your knife. So a great thing to add to your making. It's made of walnut and cherry with vegetated leather. What a great thing. So my question would be, do we strop before or after sharpening on a stone?
A nice warm-up.
Yeah.
Ease it into it.
It's really about your typing speed at this point.
I do think so. Who are we going to get?
After.
There we go.
Tim Fredo. Tim, if you want to sing out in some way that we can identify you, we'll get you a prize.
Hey, Kieran's there as well. See a few other lurkers now that the quiz is on.
Yeah, now everyone's rocking up, huh?
Yeah. Now, the second giveaway tonight for the right answer is a set of 2 padded leather knife cases. Love these. One 40 centimeter and one 30 centimeter case for handing over your knives in style. You can never have too many good cases. Now, this is a question that I can't fully see because there's something covering it in the sheet which I've just moved. So this question is to check who was paying attention to the slides today. And are you ready? This should go fairly quickly as well. The judges will score the knives on how many separate criteria? They were clearly laid out on the slide earlier. See if anyone was paying attention.
These cases are pretty sweet. I use them. They laser really well. You can laser mark on them really well. Just anyone out there?
Crushed it.
Yeah, Russell Cooper has taken that one out. Nice one, Russ.
Very nice. All right. And our third and final giveaway for today is the official 2024 Contender T-shirt for the Knife Banking Awards. You'll be the envy of everyone at the knife show. So this question is for Rumble stands. And the question is, in what year did Jackson become an ABS journeyman smith? If you've got a copy of Rod's book, you could quickly look it up.
Or we can just start punching in dates and see who.
That's it, yeah.
I'm looking for the year that Jackson became an ABS journeyman smith.
There's a lag, gets you. Oh, close, but not quite. That was not 2017.
2023, jeez. There we go, Jamie Bishop. He said it because he was there.
Yeah, I was going to say, there was a few people there.
There we go.
Good job, Jamie. You got another T-shirt to get grinder marks on.
Yeah, it's a nice T-shirt, actually. I've got mine. I didn't wear it tonight. I'm actually wearing one of Mert's T-shirts tonight, but it's a good T-shirt.
right. There we go. All right.
Sorry, is that me? And so any last minute questions? If so, add them to the chat now. And while we're just waiting on that lag, just a reminder, entries close this Sunday, 26th of May. Winner announcements are next Wednesday, the 29th of May. And in between the judges, we're all going to be doing our thing, scoring your knives, giving you feedback ahead of that show. So any last questions before we wrap?
I think Jamie and I were discussing judging best knife from Kit in the caravan at Waterfall Road on Sunday.
No, you guys are going to be there, are you? That's great.
Yeah, Jamie and I getting the caravan of courage going tomorrow. We're going to drive up
Nice.
to Waterfall Road.
Are you staying in the caravan as well?
Oh, yeah, the Love Egg.
Yeah, the Love Egg.
Is anybody else in the... Oh, do you bet. Is anybody else in the chat coming to Waterfall Road? There we go. Somebody else asked the same question. Are you coming to Waterfall Road? And do you have any other more pertinent questions to ask?
And for anyone who is coming to Waterfall Road who might be considering doing Proby, you can get in touch with me because I will be there and I will be doing assessments for anyone who is ready for them on the weekend.
Nice one.
I have a question, Kev.
Yes.
It's not for me. It's for a mate.
Asking for a friend.
Can you submit a knife? This is a question people ask me all the time. That's why I'm asking. Can you submit a knife you made on a course for Proby?
It depends on what sort of a course it was, I would think. I think if you have genuinely been the one doing all of that work, then yes. If it's a course where, the person you're doing it with has had quite a lot of hands-on stuff, then no. But look,
has their maker's mark in the middle of the blade, you might say?
Yeah, that's no. That's a no.
Yeah,
you got to be honest with yourself. I mean, similar to this competition in terms of whether you're a beginner or not, there's a little bit of honesty required because really, how are we going to check how much you did yourself on the knife? But honestly, if you actually are serious about getting feedback and improving, it's got to be knives that you've made yourself. So. But yeah, I've seen plenty of people who have genuinely done everything themselves on a course, and yeah, I think that's okay. But yeah, not if other people are involved.
I think the other thing is that all the state reps are experienced makers, and if you did a course with someone and they did most of it, they will be able to see whose knife it is because it will look like the rest of that person's work. So that's pretty easy. Who is the South Australian rep for the guild, Kev?
So we have had our AGM, our annual general meeting last weekend, and we have elected 2 state reps now. So Peter Bold, who's a legend of the guild, was the former state rep and he has stepped down. And replacing him, we have got a rep in Adelaide. Lee Barker is our new state rep there, and he will also be assisted by Kieran Swift, who's one of our newer full members, who is, I think, 4 hours, I want to say, south of Lee to sort of help out with some of the regional assessments. So Lee Barker and Kieran Swift are the 2 South Australian reps. And
how do people get in touch with their state rep for assessment? What's the best way to do that?
We are currently putting all of their details up on the website. So all the state reps are listed on the website, along with the committee and generally the contact details for those state reps. So you can go to our website, look who the one is, the relevant rep for you, get their contact details, and get in touch with them. That's how it works.
Great. Just near Damo in Millicent. He's the guy who asked. Great. It's working out great. No, Ward Edgeworks Jackson is not going to give us a workshop tour. That's a different video.
That would take about a week.
Not actually a laser, that one either. Does anyone know what that is? I absolutely cannot use it if that makes any help.
The 3D printer,
not quite. No. It's called a coordinate measuring machine, or CMM for short. So there's a probe this probe here has a little tip in it, similar to like a CNC automatic probe. And what you do is you mount your object on this table here, and this probe measures it. So it can measure compound curves and surfaces, like a million points over a small distance and something like that. So yeah, I absolutely cannot use it, but some of the other guys here can.
Your guy has everything.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty. I mean, obviously it hasn't been used recently. There's shitload with a very flat, nice table that shouldn't be there. But
it sounds like a terrible place to work.
It's a pretty cool place to work. Yeah, no, some of the guys here, they're masters of reverse engineering and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool to be around them.
Well, he got his tour. There we go. So, does anybody have any awards or guild or Jackson related questions specifically, or are we wrapping up for today? I have an early morning.
Yes. Yeah, I think the chat's gone off the rails a little bit. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah,
they're just getting enthusiastic. That's what we like. I had 2 or 3 guys at Waterfall Road last year come on Friday with their knife and be like, "I've got time to go home. What do I need to fix?" Before it closed on the Sunday. So if anybody's coming to Waterfall Road and wants my advice, I'll be there. And so will a bunch of other people. And it's a great place. It's a great place to get some feedback also, particularly before we close.
Cool. Yes, it is a very complicated ruler. That's essentially what that is.
It's like super calipers. All right, I think we're going to call it there. Thank you, Jackson, so much for your time, particularly during your last 2.5 weeks until Blade. Very grateful.
No problem at all. Happy to come.
Kev, as always, for your time. This is your 4th or 5th week in a row, so thank you for that.
No worries.
And thank you to all of our awards partners who donated all those prizes to us for these awards. Thank you to Nordic Edge. Thank you to Bjorn and Marie for putting this on and sponsoring our prizes for the awards. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday for the announcement of the winners.
Thanks, guys. Big thanks again to Jackson. All the best at Blade Show. And we'll see you on the weekend, Riley, and whoever else is coming.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.